What's going on, everybody? It is in the books. The Celtics have officially completed a sweep of the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. Four up, four down. Boston victorious in all of those games. And they are the first team in the 2021-2022 playoffs to advance on into the second round and the only team to sweep their opponent. So the Celtics are riding high and playing the best basketball of any team in the postseason. And that only reaffirms what a lot of fans believe and what the analytics tell you, and what I think the team is believing of themselves, that the Celtics are playing like legitimate, not just title contenders, but legitimate title favorites. That's how they're playing right now. No one predicted a sweep in this series. I certainly didn't. I had Celtics in seven. Most people had this series going to 6 or 7, and more people had the Nets winning. The experts picked the Nets in this one. More of them did. The Vegas odds favor the Nets, and the Celtics said, you can take those and shove it, and took care of business in every game of this series and did it in different ways. Tonight, what I thought was going to happen was the Celtics were going to have to overcome some really tricky refereeing with Scott Foster as the crew chief. That turned out to be true. Jayson Tatum fouled out on an absolutely bogus flop from Goran Dragic with about 2.5 minutes left in this game. That looked like could cost the Celtics the victory. The Celtics, to their credit, rallied behind Tatum, and while he was on the bench for those final 2.5 minutes, held on, held firm, and won the game and closed out the series. And I thought another possibility of what was going to happen tonight was if the Celtics went up big in the second half, 13 plus points, the Nets would just quit. That didn't happen. And, I don't want to give the Nets much credit because they did get swept, but they did fight until the end here in terms of it was a close game and they could have certainly packed it away. It got down to a point late in this game. Kevin Durant had a chance to make it a 1 point game from the free throw line with about 22 seconds remaining. He missed one of two. And from there on, the Celtics, were able to coast those last 22 seconds to victory by making free throws. Not necessarily the way I expected this game to go. Some things yes, some things no. I expected the Celtics to continue to play very physical defense, which they did. I expected Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown to play very strong games, which they did. Um, and I expected Kevin Durant to finally have a good game, which he did. Now he wasn't incredibly efficient, so I don't know. I would say I wouldn't give it an A game for him. I'd say this was like a B game from Kevin Durant. Um, and he did have 39.7 rebounds, 9 assists, but he was 13 of 31 from the floor, so not as efficient as you would usually see. And more importantly, he was 3 of 11 from a 3 point line, which really hurt the Nets. So definitely Durant's best game of the series, but still not that Kevin Durant absolute killer top 15 player of all time that we've seen throughout his career and in the postseason. And some of that is because of fatigue, and we've talked about this before. Some of it, I think, is Durant was frustrated with his teammates. I think Kyrie Irving and certainly Ben Simmons, and I think a lot of it is credit to the Celtics defense for playing him in a way that made him uncomfortable. And you saw that in all four games. And now, as the Celtics move on, and we still don't know who they're going to play, it's either going to be Milwaukee or Chicago. Almost certainly Milwaukee, as they're up 3 games to 1 in that series, and Chicago is missing key players and seems to be, they were playing their worst basketball at the end of the season. So the fact they took one seems to be a success for them. So if the Celtics do in fact play Milwaukee, the defending champs, the good news is the Celtics will have home court advantage in that series. And Chris Middleton may not end up being a factor. We don't know when he's going to be able to come back from his hamstring injury. The bad news is that physical defense you played on Kevin Durant and that physical way you played against the Nets is not going to work against the Bucks. The Bucks are a very physical team. Giannis might be the most physical player in the league. You can't defend him by bumping him. You will bounce right off of him like a ping pong ball. So the Celtics, this is where you're going to really see how versatile their defense is able to be in the postseason. Can you change from one series to the next series depending on your opponent and completely alter the way you play defense? And obviously, I would imagine things are going to get considerably more difficult for Jayson Tatum if Giannis is checking him as opposed to the guys that the Nets were throwing at Jayson Tatum. So assuming it's Milwaukee, expect a much different type of game plan and a much different type of series. Um, I I think it will be considerably tougher as it should as you advance. But as far as this series goes, you couldn't have asked for more from the Celtics, and you couldn't be going into next round with more confidence based off of you just swept a team that not only was favored against you, but beat you last year in the same round handily. And so you've overcome that, your demons from last year in as great a fashion as you possibly could. And you still have room to grow because Rob Williams was only just starting to get integrated at the end of the series, and as he has more time to heal, you would expect him to contribute more. So the team can play better. That's what's even more exciting about what they did in the first round is, yeah, they swept the Nets, um, but they can still get better, and they can still add a piece in Rob Williams. They can still get even stronger performances out of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. And that's the hallmark of a team that has real title aspirations is you don't see their best basketball in round one. You see them playing better as the playoffs advance. That's what a real champion looks like. And so the Celtics have the opportunity to do that. And it's really it's not just shocking that they swept this series, but the fact that they are in a position now to really look at the landscape and see, okay, well, Golden State's playing well, but they did just drop a game to Denver, who's not, a great team. Phoenix is not playing well at all, and Devin Booker is hurt. Milwaukee, has an injury to arguably their second best player. They look at Philadelphia, Joel Embiid's got the torn ligament in his thumb. Miami looks really good right now, but Celtics can look at the landscape and say, we have legitimately as good of a chance as anybody left or anybody that will be left to win a title this year. There's no team that you can look at if you're the Celtics and you're coming off of this series and say, "Oh man, we really don't want to play them," or "Yeah, they're definitely a better team than us." That's the NBA is wide open right now, and the Celtics. That's what's exciting about this. Have as good of chance, legitimately, if not better, than anybody else. And so, like we said, going into the postseason, their season and their turnaround is going to be measured on what their postseason success was, not the fact that they had a great turnaround in the regular season, but how they used that as an impetus to elevate their game further in the postseason. And so far, for round one, A+, check marks all the way, passed with flying colors, whatever idiom you want to use, the Celtics accomplished that. So they've done the Patriots model. They've done their job. They've done everything that's asked of them. Every player had at least one or more standout moments in this series who played. And so everybody who has gotten in this series has got to feel good about what their role is. They know what their role is. They know what's asked of them. They know what's expected of them and feel like they can deliver that. So really, it's all good news on the Celtics front. And then obviously the cherry on top is beating your rival, the Nets, who everybody in Boston agrees is their least favorite team. Besides I guess the Lakers, but the least favorite team that they could play. And Kyrie Irving is one of the least popular athletes in my lifetime. One of the biggest Boston sports villains I can remember. So you knocked him out, and you knocked Kevin Durant out, who spurned you in free agency a couple of years ago. And then in addition to that, I think you sent an important message to the NBA that, the regular season does matter. And you can't, if you're the Nets, just coast through it and have Durant resting a lot and then Kyrie Irving missing, half of his team's games because of the COVID vaccination status. Is that the Celtics nipped that at the bud and said, you're not going to be able to half-ass the regular season and then come into the playoffs and change gears and be a completely different team. You got to take it seriously. Seeding is going to matter. Momentum matters. Chemistry matters. And so it's not just good for the Celtics, but I think it's good for the NBA. And it would have set a really bad precedent in terms of how teams look at the regular season and how fans look at the regular season had the Nets had their way in the series and advanced. So I'm glad that didn't happen as well. Let's get into the box score for both teams here and then go to the comments. Celtics win this one, by the way, 116 to 112. And it was at times it looked like the Celtics were going to pull away, and the Nets were just going to give up. But the Nets did keep fighting. They hit some timely threes. And they at times did not seem ready to 1-2-3 Cancun and pack it in, but the Celtics gritted it out. and I think they showed could win in different fashions. So yeah, 116 to 112 final score. Celtics tonight's starters were Jayson Tatum, Al Horford, Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum, 36 minutes, strong 36 minutes, 9 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 29 points. He did foul out on a somewhat dubious call. We knew going into this game with Scott Foster as referee that officiating could and probably would be a storyline. It was, especially late in this game. No reason Tatum should have fouled out in this. Unfortunately, that final foul they fouled out on will not be included in the final 2 minute report because it happened with 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but it was egregious. And to foul out a star player and the best player in the series on that, unforgivable. And hopefully the NBA looks at that, but they won't. They'll just continue to put Scott Foster in big moments, which is absurd. But great game from Tatum. Al Horford, 26 minutes, 5 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 5 from three, 6 rebounds, an assist, a turnover, and 13 points. Al Horford was tremendous this series. Just has given the Celtics such a boost and hit some timely threes. Had a massive play at the end of the game where Marcus Smart really should have pulled the ball out as the time was running down and just forced the Nets to foul. Instead, he kind of pressed the issue and tried to go for a layup, which rimmed out. Now Horford quickly cleaned it up and put it back in, and that essentially iced the game. So Horford with some clutch play and played great in this series on both ends of the court. Daniel Tice, solid minutes for him, 20 minutes tonight, 2 of 4 from the floor, 0 of 1 from three, hit both his free throws, had 8 boards, an assist, a steal, a block, 2 turnovers, 4 fouls, and 6 points. Marcus Smart, I thought, had an excellent game tonight and some really, really great work on the glass and great work in the paint offensively. 37 minutes for Marcus, which led the team. Jaylen Brown led the team with 38. Marcus Smart second with 37. 7 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 7 from three, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, all important rebounds, 11 dimes, 1 turnover. So 11 assists to 1 turnover ratio. That is A plus point guard play. 4 fouls and 20 points for Marcus. And Jaylen Brown, who really came on strong in the fourth quarter, and especially those minutes where Tatum was either sitting or out because he fouled out for no reason in this game. He really gave the Celtics a lift. 38 minutes, 9 of 20 from the floor, 0 of 5 from three, though, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 1 turnover, 1 foul, and 22 points. And then the bench again gives the Celtics a lift tonight, specifically Grant Williams, who was awesome in this game. 33 minutes, 5 of 8 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three, all huge. 3 rebounds and assists, 3 blocks, a turnover, 3 fouls, and 14 points, and some terrific team and individual defense. Grant Williams was checking Kevin Durant one-on-one a lot this game and bothered him. He's improved so much moving laterally. It's crazy. It's like someone gave him bionic legs. And he uses his physicality really well. He did a phenomenal job in this series. He was great. And he was really, really great tonight. Robert Williams got just 14 minutes tonight as they ease him back into the lineup. Still looks a little rusty, but the bounciness is still there. 1 of 4 from the floor, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, a steal, no blocks, rare no block night for him, a turnover, 4 fouls, and 3 points. Derek White, his best game of the series for sure. 27 minutes for him, 4 of 10 from the floor, 0 of 4 from three, which that kind of is what you expect. 1 of 1 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a foul, and 9 points. He did most of his damage in the first half scoring, but considering the game was just a 4-point game, all those buckets were big. So maybe that gives Derek White some confidence to be more effective in the next round, as the Celtics will need to rely on him to be effective off the bench. And Peyton Pritchard, not effective tonight, though he had a good series overall. 9 minutes for him, 0 of 2 from the floor, 0 of 1 from three, a rebound, 2 assists, a foul, and no points for Peyton Pritchard. And on the other side, notable for the Nets, Kevin Durant, as I mentioned, did have 39 points, though it was not easy going. 3 of 11 from three, 13 of 31 from the floor. He did hit 10 of his 11 free throw attempts, but the one he missed would have made it a 1-point game, so a huge miss there. 7 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls. His best game of the season, 47 minutes again. He's got to be dog tired. Bruce Brown, not effective in this game as he had been the 2 prior games, just 2 points for him in 24 minutes. Andre Drummond barely played in this. They played Nick Claxton instead. Drummond plays just 4 minutes, doesn't score. Kyrie Irving, 45 minutes, 6 of 13, 2 of 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He was fine, though very passive, I'd say, in this game. Didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. Just 13 shots again for him. He just didn't seem engaged at all. 38 minutes for Steph Curry. He had a nice game for himself. Seth Curry, I should say, 23 points on 9 of 13 shooting and 5 of 9 from 3-point line. And the Nets bench, they got contributions from them, and the Nets role players had a fine series. I mean, maybe not defensively, but they provided points, and the Nets still couldn't capitalize. Nick Claxton was awful, awful, awful from the free throw line tonight, 1 of 11, but he was 6 of 6 from the floor for 13 points. Maybe they should have played him more than Andre Drummond in this series. Obviously, a lot of questions about Steve Nash. He might lose his job. We'll have to see. And Goran Dragic, 10 points in 24 minutes off the bench. Patty Mills, 5 points in 19 minutes off the bench. But, none of it was enough to overcome the Celtics as far as the relevant team numbers. Celtics 13 turnovers to just 10 for the Nets. So the Nets actually won that battle. As far as the total rebounds, the Nets had 38, the Celtics 45. So they did a pretty damn good job controlling the glass in this one. Celtics shoot 47% from the floor, 40% from three. The Nets shoot 50% from the floor and just 37% from three. And the Celtics take this series 4-0 and will await the winner of the Milwaukee Bucks Chicago Bulls series, which could be decided as early as their next game, which I believe is tomorrow. So we will see, and we will break down that series. I'll break down that series not just on this show, but on the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with myself and John Stepachetti. We have a new episode coming out tomorrow. We'll recap the Celtics series, and we'll also look at the rest of the series in the NBA. If you guys want to check that out. Let's go to the comments before we get out of here. We got Glenn Caesar and Leonard Kim in the comments right now. Leonard says, still got to be rough when KD puts up 39 and you lose. And yeah, but Leonard, that's the way they built that team. That's Charles Barkley said this multiple times, and I think he was dead on. If Kyrie and Durant both don't play awesome on the same time, then the Nets will likely lose that game. And they're capable of both playing awesome the same night, but they didn't once in this series. Kyrie had an awesome game 1. Kevin Durant, I guess you could say, had a really good game 4, but they never played well in the same game, and they obviously lost all 4 of their games. You still think the Celtics follow the Bucks? Presumably, my mind says Bucks in 7, but my heart says Celtics in 6. I think the Middleton factor is going to be the biggest factor if he's able to go at the start of the series. In my initial bracket, I had the Celtics losing the second round to the Bucks. But based off of momentum and now the Middleton thing, it certainly could change. So I'm going to have to see how many more games it takes Milwaukee to put away Chicago and what the Middleton thing looks like. But as it should be, I believe the Bucks are a tougher opponent for the Celtics, but they're certainly capable of beating them. And it's not just a puncher's chance. I'd say it's a legitimate, actual chance of beating the Bucks. And I'm guessing be favored in the series. They'll have home court advantage and coming off of a sweep of a team that a lot of people were high on. So I would guess the Celtics will have the betting favorites in that series in the next round, should that come to fruition. Glenn says, hi, Jet and Leonard. Congrats on the sweep. The rest of the Eastern Conference playoffs should be very interesting. Yes, we are going to be looking at that intently. You say Celtics Bucks will go 7 regardless. It's certainly, both are very good defensive teams. Both are hungry for a championship. They have guys who are going to put in supreme effort. So with those two type of matchup, you'd expect it to be a long competitive series. So I think that's the likeliest outcome. Aside from CBA monetary issues for the NBA, the regular season playoff seeding is important. Yeah, and I think, again, like I said, this series went far in saying that and saying, to teams like the Nets, like, you can't just try to gel in the playoffs. It's not going to work. Celtics had the superior roster, you're saying too, clearly deeper, more motivated, better chemistry, without a doubt. Leonard says, I still marvel at the contrast between where the Celtics were a couple months ago and now. It makes no sense. Yeah, well, a lot of this world makes no sense. But we've talked about this at length. I'm just enjoying the ride now. That's all I can do. Shocking, but I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm so thrilled to have been wrong. I couldn't have been happier. And as the season got closer to the playoffs, I thought the Celtics, had a legitimate chance to go deep in the playoffs. And I did pick them in the first round against the Nets. I picked them in 7, so I can't really give myself that big of a pat on the back. But yeah, they're legit. They are legit, and they're playing the best basketball of anybody, and they have been for months now. So why not us? Why not us? All right, guys. Thank you for watching, whether it's now or after the fact. Appreciate it if you give it a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will talk to you after the next Celtics game, probably over the weekend, maybe early next week. And make sure you check out the Pick and Roll NBA podcast, myself and John Sapichetti tomorrow on this channel. And I'll talk to you guys later. See you, everybody.